I am Allaha. I am giving my final testimony before my sentence. Death is carried out. This should in no way be taken as the author giving readers insight into the thought process and emotional state of an otherwise stoic and emotionally unavailable character.
Hello, I'm Alec, and I'm here to kickstart some forced exposition that introduces all the main characters. I'm Allaha, a knight of the mountain. As you can see, I am very stoic by my stern expression and formal speech. I'm Tamara, and I'm a Minori, a people that are loosely inspired by the Romani people, and I'm an empath, but because I'm a teenager, I can get confused about why people are feeling the emotions they do. My main character traits are being wise for my years, but still being a teenager, so sometimes I'm not. I'm Hibu, a journeyman sorcerer of the Zhao, a royal family in a country called Jiangwan, that will be hinted at until we get to my emotional character arc about the abuses I suffered, and how I'm still dealing with them. My main character traits are being curious and socially awkward. Carriage? Carriage is Carriage. Carriage is a Tibu, and a child. Carriage can summon ghosts to help Mama. By the way, Allaha, do you remember how we grew up together as children, and how it is painfully obvious that I have an unrequited crush on you? I do remember that. Also, I'm going to bring up local superstitions about monsters in the forest that I'm going to scoff at as if they aren't true, because surely they aren't. It's fine, it was prompted by the plot. Allaha has a past? Please tell me, Gorik the demon, whose main character traits are being annoying and perverted, all about it. Do not do that. Then I won't. Drats. So the group goes to the Keep of Timmerbrand, where they find out Alec's father, the Lord of Timmerbrand, is dying. We get to see the group interact with each other, including giving Allaha a hard time about her mysterious relationship with Alec, after the lordling asked her to meet him alone after dinner. They meet on the rooftop at night, because Alec is brooding, and literary convention requires that brooding occurs on a rooftop at night. My father is dying. I noticed. Your mother died. That gives us emotional solidarity while I go through a difficult time. You are correct. Also, I'm marrying your sister. This does not surprise me. Remember when I proposed to you when we were like 8? Yes, but we're adults now that have gone on different paths in our lives and that will clearly not work out. Yeah, that sucks, because I'm still totally in love with you despite not knowing anything about who you are now and even calling you a completely different person. Well, good luck with your father dying. Oh, right, I'm sad. So the next morning they go into town, and surprisingly, the people implied to be vaguely British are racist against the character implied to be vaguely Romani. Allaha finds a guide to take her to meet the local seer, a witch named Alistair. The guide is very obviously a not good person by the way he looks, smells, and acts. A woman doing something I don't like? Whore! I'm going to get you to do what I want by threatening to turn you in for breaking the law. Also threatening to hurt you if you insult my charges. I am surprisingly cowardly and easy to convince. The Gospel is also really fast and abandons Allaha in the forest. Gorik joins her to make fun of her, but it's alright, because a rooster shows up and guides her to the witch she's looking for. Leading to this conversation the author is very proud of. Asvorian, are you Alistair? Who would like to know? Allaha of the Mountain. Did you really name your chicken after the angel of fertility? He's my familiar. My most common requests are for childbirth and fertility. So you use your cock for peace, demon. What? I was just going to say it makes sense. Anyways, it starts to rain, so Alistair leads the knight to stay in his cabin for the night. This will in no way lead to a giant misunderstanding the next day. Back in the village, character development is being set up. Why are you angry at Hibu? Because he did something I'm going to leave vaguely explained that caused me to get hurt by being arrogant. But he said sorry. I know. And he was just trying to help. I know. And Mama said it wasn't his fault. I know! gods, can't you just let me be an emotionally immature teenager for 5 minutes? I'm going to go dance in the rain because I'm emotionally distraught and no one understands me. Okay, have fun. Back at Alistair's cabin, Howling wakes up Alea. To everyone's absolute surprise in a fantasy novel, there are actual werewolves living in the forest. They bring an injured wolf to Alistair for treatment, after being shot by Dospel, and Alistair leaves them naked in his back shed to heal, which will surely not lead to a future misunderstanding. The werewolf leader, Brisbane, is also suspicious of Alea. Why is there an outsider here? She's here to see me. Why? Doesn't matter. Well, I don't trust her. She could be lying. Knights of the Mountain can't lie, so that's impossible. I am here for a vision. A vision? No, no, no. A vision killed our mother. I won't allow it. You aren't the boss of me. Also, I'm a werewolf. Well, don't come crying to me when this ends poorly. It won't. So, want to have an emotional talk about our dead mothers and messy sibling relationships? Sounds good. The next day, things end poorly. I'm angry because the witch is a werewolf and it scares me. I have literally done nothing wrong. Yeah, he really hasn't. Look, the knight stayed in his house. They must have frick-fracked, which knights don't do, which means he used magic to seduce her. That makes no sense. Having a naked woman in his shed makes no sense either. She's a patient. Naked! And then the other wolf left to guard the naked woman attacked, and a mob ties up Alistair and Alea and takes them into town to burn Alistair at the stake and end his evil witch magic. On the way, Alea sees Brisbane and tells him to go get help from the nearby sanctum. In town, the stake is set up and Alea is secured nearby. Tamara, Kyojical, and Hibu come to talk to Alea. Did I use magic to help? No, they intend to burn Alistair for being a witch. Magic like that will only add fuel to the fire. Literally, Gorik said invisibly. What? Children! We can't have this! That's a bad idea. Yeah. I want Mama! So Karish summoned a bunch of spooky ghosts that chased everyone away, breaking the hysteria. A bunch of priests show up from the sanctum, admonish the town people for hurting innocents, and banish Alistair because of vaguely discussed politics. Brisbane declares the pack sticks together, so thanks Alea for saving his brother's life before they leave. Alec shows up to let Alea know his father has died. She gives him a hug as a gesture of comfort, and then he awkwardly kisses her for closure on his childhood crush. And so ends Chapter 1.
It's now time to talk about my rocky relationship with my father due to him not paying me enough attention after my mother's death. This includes a healthy dose of self-reflection, and surely none of the background I'm giving has anything to do with a later part of the story.
After a lot of boring walking that helps establish the setting and passage of time, our heroes come across a giant graveyard, and Karajakal breaks off to go play with the ghost children. Hey guys, shouldn't we move on? Don't tell me you're scared. What? No way! Yeah, that's really convincing. After a brief rest, the group continues on to find a spooky abandoned town. Alea doesn't trust it, but does trust the spooky abandoned sanctum overlooking the town. The group decides to spend the night there, but Alea wants to investigate the town. I'm going to investigate the town. Guess I'll just stay here then, Pookie Bear. You do realize I've caught on to the fact that you're just trying to make me angry, right? You have? Yep. You'll just have to find new ways to annoy me. Farewell. After showing how their relationship is progressing, Alea goes into town and ends up finding a bunch of very spooky ghosts who aren't very helpful. After showing how their relationship is progressing, Alea goes into town and ends up finding a bunch of spooky ghosts who aren't very helpful. She then runs into a random old woman, and they head her home. Meanwhile, Karashikawa runs away, and Tamara and Hibu find him in the middle of a giant ghost party. While they're out having fun, the old woman tells Alea the story of what happened to the village, because honestly the author forgot what she had planned when she got to this part and made some stuff up, but she's pretty happy with how it turned out overall. At the end of the night, Tamara and Hibu have a fight, because while Tamara's powers of empathy give her insight into how people are feeling, she's still a teenager and isn't actually all that great at the why part. Alea gets back to the group after the old woman dies, freeing all the ghosts and causing the village to melt away like morning mist.
By the way knights are trained includes both physical and psychological torture, which is why I'm so emotionally unavailable.
After some more boring walking and character development, who needs that, we find our heroes scaling a mountainside. I still hate bad weather, and it is very cold and snowy here. Don't be a baby. But they soon enter an inn built into the side of the mountain, where some 9-foot-tall dwarves greet them, because the author thought if Tolkien got away with making elves tall, why not make some tall dwarves? Anyways, they have a weird accent, and their entire city is built inside the mountain. The group travels to a sanctum inside the mountain, where they get to enjoy some natural hot springs for bathing. Alea and Tamara discuss differences in their personal beliefs. Alea goes out into a magical blizzard because it's preventing her from seeing the oracle outside. After some struggle, she meets a man named Caraby. Or Astelvo. The angel of death in my religion? It's Caraby. And I'm not an angel, and I hate your religion and your god. But are you Astelvo? Yes. I really don't know how to react to this. Well, since you're not here for me, I guess you can see Ryodasite, the hermit you came to see. Thanks. On the way, Alea slips on some ice, and Caraby catches her, but then acts like touching her physically hurt him, and never explains why, though it's heavily implied that Gorik knows why. Naturally, he shares nothing, so Alea gets her vision from Ryodasite. It only took 130-some pages to get the first one, and returns to the sanctum so they can get ready to get to the next place.
Hey, remember how I have a bad relationship with my father? I'm here to remind you of that again.
So once again, we're going to skip all the travel time and possible character development therein, such as Tamara realizing she's been acting like an immature teenager, reconciling with Hibu, and both forming a deeper bond as surrogate siblings, and go right to the heart of the chapter. After indulging in the author's old-style military uniform fetish for a few paragraphs, we meet Commander Scorin, a Jaspernian who seems nice as he explains the tensions between his people and the Arikish and Carbonians, at Hibu's request. The fact that his description is almost as long as the character descriptions from the beginning of the book means absolutely nothing, and certainly does not indicate favoritism on the author's part. Anyways, some Arikish and Carbonians arrive, and the commander flees, which seems suspicious to Alea and Gorik. Tamara can't sleep and goes exploring the hotel. She comes across a secret meeting where the Carbonians and Arikish are being made a deal to help get a Jaspernian out of the way. On her way back to the room, she gets waylaid by the commander, who reveals he's the target of the deal. He insists Tamara not get involved, but she wakes up Hibu to try and do otherwise. Look, he was super nice and also people plan to kill him. We should help. I don't think that's a good idea. He's also a liar. What? He wasn't lying. I can tell with my magic. Okay, he didn't lie per se, but he did manipulate your perception of the truth. So Gorik explains the slightly convoluted way that the commander tricked her using the help of another Jaspernian named Ezray, and they all go to bed afterwards with no harm done. The next afternoon, they head into the desert to get to their next destination, when a bunch of naked snake women kidnap Alea and drag her off. The children race back to the inn, and Tamara confronts the commander to blackmail him into helping them. Wow, that is a lot of scars. What do you want? You tried to trick me, and if you don't help, I'll expose you. Damn it all to hell. Des! I'm blaming you for this. I don't think this is my fault, but I'm gonna go along with this anyways. So after the Jaspernian rogues get dressed, they go to rescue Alea. Along the way, they realize the Carbonians are following them. The commander shows Tamara how to use her insight, a power they both have, to trick the Carbonians into fighting the Snake Women for them. Gorik appears in corporeal form for the first time, and gets into a big fight with Malia. They rescue Allaha, but there's only one hitch. "You're coming with me. Isn't this a weird time to want a frick-frack?" "I agree. Unfortunately, being in a room full of aphrodisiac tends to change things." "Well, can we at least make things interesting?" "You want to invite the demon, don't you?" "Duh." "Fine, but be quick." So off they go to play patty cake, and all is well for the rest of the night. Allaha wakes up, and they learn that the oracle they had come to see was a fake. And at the end, Allaha calls Gorik by his name for the first time due to a promise in the last chapter the author forgot to put in the script, and you probably forgot about while reading the book, showing more character progression between the two of them.
Here I tell you about the magical process used in becoming a knight, the part that makes us immune to magic and could not possibly have an explanation the author intends to reveal later.
Okay guys, look. This is the longest chapter in the book. The next longest chapter is half the length of this one. That's because the way the chapters are structured is based on the amount of time the group spends in any one location where a prophet of some kind is located. In past chapters, this has been a day or two. In this chapter, it's 2 weeks, which is why this chapter is so long. So to save time, and my patience, I'm just going to summarize it here instead of in a skit. Not even going to memorize it. The group is riding through the forest in Ruroik when they learn that the next prophet they're going to see is in Allaha's hometown. They then run into a hunting party, which it turns out is being led by Allaha's older brother, Oba. Her other brother, Dorian, is a bit of an ass and acts like it. They start riding back while the sibling, revealing Allaha was a bit of a wild child. But then Dorian brings back their father who, you'll never guess, Allaha has a bad relationship with. Also, he's a duke and the king's champion. They get to the Duke's Keep and get rooms, and Allaha immediately goes off to talk to her brother about seeing the prophet. Tamara, Hebu, and Karashikal are left to the steward, Winnick, who tells them a really long story that is definitely not foreshadowing. Along the way, they meet a page named Michelle who tells Tamara she's pretty, and Hebu and Gorik recognize trouble, because he said it in a pretty racist way. Allaha meets up with Oba and his boyfriend and girlfriend, and they tell her about the attempted coup her sister, the prophet, staged while she was away. Allaha goes to her mother's cabin where her sister is banished, and after they talk, she goes to take care of her grandmother's garden and visit her mother's grave. Hebu, Tamara, and Karashikal get dressed up for a birthday ball for Allaha's sister, Sylvian. Because the Rouge druids see demons as spirits, they help Gorik take corporeal form again, and he goes to retrieve Allaha for the celebration. They have a bit of a tiff, and Allaha runs into her sister Sylvian on her way to her sister's fiancé, Tamo, at the head of their mercenary band. Sylvian convinces Allaha to wear a dress, to everyone's surprise, and at the ball we meet the king, a crotchety old man, and the Dauphin. And they wait because Lucette, Allaha's traitorous sister, said she needed the full moon to give a vision. Tamara and Hebu are invited to noble parties, where Tamara gets caught up playing noblewoman and Hebu plays some shell games to try and keep her from getting hurt. Marcellin, the Dauphin, notices and starts flirting with Hebu because of it. Tamara finds out what Hebu did, and they have a big blowout fight and stop speaking to each other. Meanwhile, Allaha is off doing other things and leaving them to their own devices for once. Gorik comes to ask her, and she imparts the wisdom of siblings in letting them sort out their own fight to him. They have a quiet moment, and soon after, Karashikal becomes concerned with Allaha's absence. He goes and yells at Tamara and Hebu for being dumb teenagers, and the pair make up, and all three go to look for Allaha. They run into Marcellin, who takes Hebu to see Griffin's hatch after he noticed Hebu seemed interested in them. Hebu ends up being gifted an albino griffin and talks about his difficult past. This causes him and Marcellin to have a sweet moment together where Marcellin reveals he likes Hebu for being a good person. Tamara and Karashikal go to see Winnick the steward, who is married to a man named Taub the stable master, and they share some insight on the relationship between Allaha and her father. For the second week of their stay, Tamara and Hebu act like themselves, with Hebu taking care of a grifflet. That was the end of a sentence. Allaha doesn't really seem to care about Marcellin's involvement, and the king gives her a book with her mother's portrait in it. They finally get a prophecy out of Lucette, and shockingly, Allaha is the actual person who is going to save the world. She really didn't expect this. She kind of just thought she'd help, even though the vision was triggered by her and everything. Also, foreshadowing. So they go back to the keep to pack and say their goodbyes, including Allaha's father seeing them off to show the way they've made a little progress towards repairing their relationship. And we're done.
Just the vow of the Knights of the Mountain.
After a brief variation of the landlady meets the most dangerous game, which scars Tamara for life, the trio head to Tibu to meet their next prophet. On the way, they see a trio, including a Durovan, a Jaspernian, and a Demaroki woman, who are in a relationship and will be more relevant later in the books. Anyways, they get to the village of Mayaya, and Karashikal decides to stay with the chieftain and learn with other Tibu. Hebu and Gorik decide to stay as well, and look after him. Allaha and Tamara go to the sanctum, which they learn is full of only female knights. While there, Allaha meets with their knight captain, a Carbonian named Elti, and the high priestess, a Coromwanese woman named Akoni. So, do you travel with a demon? Has that caused you any trouble? It has on occasion, ma'am, but nothing I could not handle. I like that answer. You know, nothing in our laws actually says we have to kill them, right? Captain? She's right. We checked. Strange, though, isn't it? Lord Devero was the first head of the order to start hunting them in force the way we have. Odd how long he's lived, too, don't you think? There is something I do not understand. Why did Lord Devera send you to find those with the site, especially with your charges? She means it would have made more sense to have them come to you. If all of you are supposed to play important roles in this, why risk you by having you traipse all over Magdra? Allaha has no answers for these questions, which are not plot holes, because the author does have answers, and she's not going to tell you right now. In the village, Hebu gets hit on by the girls, and this almost starts a brawl that they manage to turn into a dance party instead. You know, how you do. Gorik is corporeal once more, and then Allaha comes to ask Hebu to do magic. The prophet they're looking for is Genoarian, making him a merman who lives underwater. Hebu, who has been very nervous about using magic ever since that vaguely explained accident at the beginning you probably forgot about, very nervously agrees to magic himself and Tamara to breathe underwater the next day. They all have some good bonding moments the night before that would be much sweeter if this had included all the character development from the rest of the book, but that's why this is abridged. Anyways, they go to see the prophet, Khedive, the next day after Hebu gives them gills. They go through an underwater city and find a giant glowing pearl. Khedive turns out to be a giant shark man. And Hebu touches the pearl. Khedive tells him it is a source of old magic, and after touching it, Hebu gets some new powers. Khedive then gives them a vision, which Hebu's new powers let him see as well. Khedive then helps them get to the surface, and they all return to the cabin near the sanctum they were staying in. While Hebu and Tamara recount their journey, Alistair shows up. You know, the werewolf witch from the first chapter? He brings his rooster, too. The other knights warn Allaha both to stay and to run away, worried something bad is going to happen. She decides to continue her quest anyways.
Here I finally talk about the death of the Oracle of Dromaju and the broken prophecy that started this whole thing.
So the werewolves are with Alistair, and Allaha and the kids start traveling with the pack. It's super obvious they're really nervous about something, which leads to a confrontation which would be much more rewarding with more character development, like the kind you'll find in the actual book. They end up having to tie up Allaha and travel to the abandoned sanctum in Baudelaire to hide out from spoilers. Hebu doesn't agree with tying Allaha up, and ends up summoning an army of skeletons to rescue you and spirit her away to Spoilerville. There's a small section at the end full of spoilers, and then spoilers happen.
Foreshadowing?
So it turns out that spoiler is spoiler, And the spoiler he spoiled spoiler was away in spoils that spoiler would get spoiled along the spoiler. Spoiler had spoiler spoiled because spoiler thought spoiler spoiler, but spoiler didn't. Spoiler doesn't spoil because spoiler's still spoiling spoiler. Spoiler also spoils self, so spoiler can spoil spoiler, and the spoiler spoils spoiler from spoiler. Flip the page here. Just get pause. Flip pages. That's sucks. Sucks make flipping pages really hard. Okay.